Hey there, my name's Danny Leibrandt, and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. Today, I'm with Wyatt Chambers, who might be one of the most authoritative people in the pest control space. He has so many accolades, I'll try to remember them all here. So, Wyatt is a serial entrepreneur. He originally started CS Design Studios, which is a marketing agency, digital marketing agency, about 15 years ago, and now runs Swarm Pest Control Marketing for the past few years, specifically niching down on pest control, same way as I am. Wyatt also is a co-owner slash founder in four different pest control companies. He is a CMO for various different companies, including pest control. He also is the founder, I think, co-founder of Flock Off, which is now Simterra, which is basically like a technology product for pest control. We can, talk about that more later as well. So tons of accolades for Wyatt. So glad to have him on the podcast. We've actually been in touch for the past few months or so, and this might be my favorite guest today. So yeah, so glad to have Wyatt on.
Wow, that's high, man. I appreciate that, Danny. You
Yeah,
know, all the guests that you've had in your show is very impactful, man. And I think I saw a comment from somebody that said, "How do you get these players on your podcast?" So
yeah,
I got a hands off, or high five for how you've gotten these folks on your podcast. And, I will say I feel like the least amount of, watching these other guys and what they're doing, I feel like the least, and I know we both deal with, hey, never good enough, right? And
mm,
I think that I'm overcoming that one day at a time. But
mm.
yes, there's a lot of different things that I've done and I'm doing, but I enjoy the journey too. So I think that's why I'm here, is I'm enjoying watching your journey and being a part of helping the pest control industry at large here.
Definitely
Yeah.
cool, man. Yeah, no, I've most of the guests I've had so far are more so local SEO people. So I kind of want to get someone with more of a pest control background and get more pest control guys on the podcast as well. So yeah, again, so glad to have you on. And like I told you, and just about every podcast I do, I like to start out with your journey. So I believe that your first pursuit was CS Design Studios about 15 years ago, but were you doing something before that? How did you get into digital marketing initially?
Yeah, no problem. I worked for UPS for almost 10 years,
Hmm.
and I didn't know it at the time, but I was an entrepreneur. And it was one of those things where when you're on your journey, you're figuring out who you are, right? So my final play in UPS was being an e-commerce consultant, where I
Hmm.
got to work with a lot of those Fortune 500 companies in the US. And that was fun. I learned a lot of different things. Obviously, it was more towards the shipping and technology. And one of the things that impressed me along that journey was seeing some younger guys that had monopolized on the Google strategy. How do
Hmm.
you run pay per click and get your companies to drive? And that blew me away when I saw that these younger guys in their 20s were making crazy bank by, I'll give you an example. The first example was a printer cartridge company that he was buying printer cartridges overseas, and the keywords were the serial numbers on these printer cartridges. I can't make this
What?
up. Yeah, it were the serial numbers on these cartridges, and he had container loads of I would say OEM printer cartridges that was competing with the HP market, right?
Hmm.
And he was just raking it in. I was like, how in the heck are you doing this? And I happened to be an e-commerce consultant working with him on some of the visibility. We're going back almost 20 years now. So
Hmm.
that kind of opened my horizons as to getting interested in Google. Now, that was kind of the entry point. I think the first website I built was like in 95
Wow.
for my accountant because I couldn't afford his services. I built a website for him, and in exchange, he took care of my taxes for
Hmm.
me. So, uh, shortly after I left UPS, I started my first company that failed. we
That's how it
learned from
goes.
Yeah, we learned from our failures, and I went to go work for a telecommunications company. I learned some nice sales techniques, and I had some sales techniques from UPS as well. But I went to go work for a telecommunications company that was in VoIP, again, going back about 18 years ago. Had a falling out with a business leader over there. And one of the things that the owners of that company allowed me to do was to build Copper State design studios.
Mm.
And that's where the CS came
Ah,
from. Yeah. And so I didn't sign a non-compete or none of that. And I built up a business within a business. Took me about a year. And I was like, hey, well, I'm selling the websites, I'm doing the work, I'm marketing, and I'm even doing the billing. So the last piece was, why do I need you?
yeah, yeah.
So, they didn't really, I don't want to say anything that it just didn't work out for us. And primarily that DNA that I have of being an entrepreneur. So
Hmm.
I ended up going into business with a friend of mine that I helped him build a website and start generating business for him. And he went ahead and said, "Hey, let's co-found CS Design Studios." And our first client was an energy drink company out of Scottsdale, and that was kind of fun to compete with a big marketing firm out of Scottsdale. Again, going back, and CS started almost 17 years ago. Time flies.
Mm.
That you know they had almost $100,000 bid from a company in Scottsdale, and ours was 30. And we were
Mm.
just really hungry. At that time, it was Flash. We were doing 3D modeling. I had video loops in that website. I built that one myself, and I really enjoyed just working on that stuff. It was really exciting, just kind of like what you're going through. Those
Mm.
exciting first 2 years of going into business for yourself, you
Mm.
got this energy and this drive where it's just, man, it feels really good. And so I had hired some 3D people. It was just really advanced for the time. And I really liked Flash and graphic arts. I think that because I'm a very visual person, I like
Nice.
seeing stuff that's visually pleasing and it drives customer action. Unfortunately, that tool set, Flash, went away because of the marketing aspect. I would say there's pieces that you still see and use. I don't use Flash anymore, but that's what I was like drew me to the industry for
Mm.
design and creativity for sure.
Okay, cool. So, did you have any niche at all, or is kind of anyone? Because that energy drink is, yeah, that's out there. Because I think I mean, particularly pest control now. That's same with me, about as niche as you can get.
Yeah, I mean, I became a generalist, Danny, and I think like most business owners, you'll take any client,
Yeah.
or you think I could do this, I can learn it, I can do whatever.
Hmm.
And I didn't have like a Josh Nelson in the room to say, "Hey, man,
Yeah.
where's Josh Nelson when you need him?" And so when I read Josh's books, I gotta give him some props here.
Hmm.
That I was like, "Dang, where was Josh Nelson in these books a decade ago or 15 years ago?" Because this would have been really ultra helpful. Now, I'm not going to discount working with as many companies as I have, Danny. I mean, as far as working with government agencies, working with college groups, working with anybody that pretty much needed a website. And in the beginning, it was more website maintenance as opposed
Hmm.
to marketing. And
Okay.
I got burnt out, I think, on doing project after project. And you know how those cycles go,
Uh-huh.
where you go RFP, go through that whole process. So you have all this project work and hourly work that's burning people out.
Hmm.
And so I think when I read this book, I'd already, I would say for the last decade, running what I would say maintenance and ongoing revenue generation. So I've been able to weather those storms of startup, going from
Hmm.
startup to, okay, now we're in that significant stage. And I think one of the biggest breakthroughs was breaking through $1 million in revenue, which that was huge. I remember we celebrated, we ran to the movie theater. We had a 15-minute video that we did that we played at the theater, giving all of our team members accolades and clients. It was super fun. It was super fun. And yeah, I just look back at that and just thought about, man, how did I get here? How did we get
Hmm.
here? And it's not by doing things perfectly. It's just by taking action and getting stuff done for sure.
Yeah. Talk to me more about hitting $1 million with your agency. So first off, congrats. That's so impressive. And I'm not sure if you've done it with both agencies at this point. I think you told me that, but super impressive. And I want to know, what was there, like some big pivotal moment, or some big idea that maybe drove you from like 50K a month to that 80K a month?
I didn't. I didn't really think of it like that. I just,
Mm,
I think the thought was I went into this business to help other people make money
mm,
and to build an online presence and use my creativity.
mm-hmm.
And, going from 50, 70, I don't even remember watching that marker. I think we were looking more about profitability.
Okay.
And when is it come time to add our next player?
Mm,
Add your next player, add your next player, and that's kind of the mindset that I had, which obviously has shifted over time. But I think that there was just this point where we'd set a goal and a number in our office, and I'm like, okay, we're aiming for 750. Now we're aiming for 1 million.
mm.
Now what? Where do you go from
Yeah.
here? And you get caught in this kind of the wheel scenario. It's not about the amount of revenue that you're going to drive. I think a lot of people drive that, but it's really about the sustainability.
Mm,
And I think what has drawn me to listening to you and seeing some of the things that you're doing, Danny, is you care about the client, everything else comes, right? If you're
uh-huh.
taking care of the customer and they're happy, great, everything else follows. And
Mm,
so, um, obviously we have goals and we want to achieve those goals, but like I'll just tell you about a program that I heard about called Strategic Coach, and there's a couple really nice books, and one of them is entitled The Gap in the Gain.
mm,
And it's about gain mindset and staying in that spot. And I think I've been fairly good at staying in that spot, not running all the what ifs. I think a lot of times when you have thinkers or what I call integrators, they're more about running the what ifs. What if this fails? What if that fails? Then they never make progress because they're so worried about failure or not getting that next level. And I think that the optimism of listening to players like Simon Wright and Adam Grant, Sinek, those guys are really about mindset. And that's just so refreshing to stay and be around that and make it an effort as a leader and a coach and whatever else you're doing to always be speaking in that framework and not giving away to negativity or spinning out too much, overthinking it.
mm.
And
How has
there's yeah.
how has your mindset improved and changed over the years?
I think in the last 5 years, and I'll just tell you part of that journey was joining an organization called Vistage, which there's some of your top CEOs in the country where we're getting together and we're doing what's called issue processing, where you get in a room with a bunch of CEOs. I think in my group, there's over $500 million represented in business in that room. And
Wow.
we get together every week. I'm sorry, every month. And I get to get together with my coach once a month and we process the issues. And then when you start doing that, you start going, wow, I'm not alone. There's a peer group
Mm,
that can really support me. And it's more than just jumping on a YouTube and watching a YouTube because
mm,
there's just no connection there. And
yeah.
there's something about it when you're in a room with a bunch of successful business owners and you're laying out your issues and they're helping you process it
Mm,
and not trying to solve it off the bat, but going through a methodical process of helping you see what the real problem is. Many times it's not what you think it is.
mm.
And I remember being on I call it the firing squad, where you're up, you're talking about a
Yeah.
real issue, and man, your emotions, the very fabric of your being is tied in with that. And then you have people challenging you, asking questions, and leading you down a path but one of that's going to try to help you, not try to elevate themselves. It's not an ego thing at all. And
Mm,
it's amazing what that group has done. They bring in speakers and on a month, I would say every 2 months they bring in a speaker, and it just opens your eyes to other horizons. So, the recommendation for any pest control owner, digital marketeer, whatever, is get into a peer group,
mm.
associate around people that are doing what you're doing. I like to associate around people that are doing better than I am, so that's how you can up level. Not
Uh-huh.
necessarily. Now, I'll just say this: that don't underestimate what value you're bringing as well. It took me a while to feel confident enough to start talking, sharing, and feeling like, hey, man, there's something of value that I can bring here. I got guys that I'm working with that, they're $100 million level.
Mm, yeah.
What you're probably thinking it too, Danny, where what value can I bring?
Uh-huh.
And over time, you're like, wow, a lot. I've
Mm,
been speaking to a lot of We really opened Swarm up through PCT over the last month, where I've done a significant amount of outreach, and I'm talking to $50 million a year pest control companies. And I'm like, wow, and I'm thinking, hey, if they had a Wyatt or a Danny, this would be a different deal for them.
Uh-huh.
It'd be different for all their families that are working for them. And yes, it's hyper local down to the branch or down to the level of the local level. But the bigger the pest control company is, you just have, multiple pest control companies, right? Or
Mm.
multiple areas. And I think it was one of your posts I was looking at is the tracking's not set up correctly.
Yeah.
Man, have you listened to your phone calls?
Yeah. I know.
How come you're spending money here? It's not converting. Those are the
Hmm.
conversations that you think you don't need a PhD to look at that. The tools are there. It's really just a proper application and putting those into place to be able to track those things effectively. Yeah.
Definitely. That was
So that's
awesome.
just
Yeah.
that was one group, and then I think you and me were in the seven figure agency
Hmm.
relatively around that time, and I think that just up leveled from meeting other players in the digital marketing space.
Hmm.
I think what was happening for me personally is I'm competing with these guys in this geographic of a million people. There's quite a few businesses, but I didn't meet with my competitors. I'm like, man, there's secret sauce here. I don't want to share that with my
Yeah.
competitor because they might come in and steal my clients. And so I didn't have that Nelson group, and I really didn't have the time to, or at least I didn't make the time to look for those peer groups until I read his books and started
Mm.
doing the outreach. Was again from Vistage that opened my mind to be able to outreach to other peer groups in the space.
Definitely. No, I think community is so important, and especially something like Seven Figure Agency. I personally think that's an awesome group. And yeah, I'd love for you to talk more about your experience in Seven Figure Agency. Like for people that don't know what it is, that maybe they're an agency owner, they want to learn more about it, know what it is, and what success you've seen about it. Just tell us all about
Yeah.
Seven Figure Agency.
Yeah, I would just say Seven Figure Agency is a this group of agencies, top 1% of digital marketing agencies in the United States that are growing. They certainly have the stats behind it to prove it. I think we may have went to the same intensive where they bring all these guys in and bring in speakers, people that are doing
Hmm.
it, and kind of say, hey, here's the framework to grow your agency, and this is how you can grow it. What's nice about Josh is I know he worked for a company called Reach Local prior, which was like, a very large company to go in there and help grow people. And he realized some things that he learned from Reach Local to start Seven Figure Agency.
Mm.
But he's
Yeah.
put together a really good program as far as how to do that. And even if for some reason, hey, as a digital marketeer, that's not going to fit into my budget, and I don't even want to put numbers out there, but it costs money to get coaching and get to what I call real peer groups that you're going to get valuable insights and tricks to speed up your growth.
Hmm.
And I'll say for me in that organization is I haven't been able to keep up with everything that was coming up.
Yeah.
They got
Uh-huh.
so much coming at you. I think again, that would have probably been more valuable before I became, a multi-million dollar agency, right?
Mm.
That would have been more valuable. And I think we're just teetering on that growth where, okay, I got to do something different.
Mm.
And that's where I kind of came in and looked at Josh's model and go, okay, I got to niche this thing out. But once you've created this beast of a generalist agency, you don't just hit the easy button and do that
Mm.
because you're talking about going backwards in time with all these relationships. I'm not going to drop customers and drop all this revenue just to pursue that. So for me to kind of fit, it's been a little bit of a journey. I would say that I will be a seven figure agency guy again, probably next year, but
Mm.
I wanted to make sure that I was walking the walk with Swarm because Swarm
Yeah.
came out of that. Swarm is a DBA at the moment, but it's really the hyper focus of this niche aspect where I'm hyper focusing on the pest control industry. And I feel like I've got enough time behind me now that I can speak with authority not one of a know-it-all, but there's some authority there. And I'm happy to
Yeah.
give you kind of that journey too, if you want to hear that one.
Uh-huh. Why did
Yeah.
you choose pest control over any other niche?
Okay, by accident. Yeah.
Kind of same here.
So, yeah, I'll give you, I'll give you the quick rundown. I was in another peer group that I meet with that's more of a local group. Again, probably a, half $500 million worth of business owners. And I mean,
Wow.
it's, they're a lot of old timers, but one of
Hmm.
the core people there ran Truly Nolan and was running Truly Nolan
Mm.
for 30 plus years. And his name was Scott Nolan, still a good friend of mine and a business partner, where, they would hear me talk. And then and one day, three of them approached me and they said, "Hey, we're starting a pest control company. And we'd like you to be a partner. Here's an opportunity." So they wanted me to get out my checkbook, which I'm like, man, this just sounds incredible to me. And I got to watch the pitch deck on, how fragmented the pest control industry is. There's like
Hmm.
27,000 plus, and I hear numbers, just depends if you ask AI or ask PCT. There's tens of thousands of pest control operators in the United States.
Uh-huh.
And you probably see that as well, where a lot of these private equity firms are buying them up.
Yeah.
And so it could be a really good play for, an equity stake play. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get out my checkbook. And there were some things that they presented to me that were really differentiators outside of, hey, this is a brand new brand. I know there's going to be a ton of work involved, all new people. We got to buy trucks. We got to do all this stuff. I cut the check. We get ready to roll our vehicles out in the field, and COVID hits.
Mm.
And
Dang.
and so you can imagine, as an investment person, when you invest into something, and everything changed. So
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden, everything that you had as part of your marketing plan, which some of it was digital, but then you had some, sales techniques, right? You go and service somewhere, and then you go hit canvas the block with flyers,
Mm.
door hangers,
Hmm.
or a lot of people were wondering what's going to happen. Am I going to lose my job? They're holding on to their pennies, and so was it a good time to start a pest control company or a company in general? Some people might say yes. Some people might say no. If I knew that was coming, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I'm glad I did it because I am where I am right now because of it. We started it, and here was the test of resilience because it was the first time that I had a chance to be a business partner.
Mm.
And I think that, for ones that aren't partners out there, that's a challenge in itself because you want to partner with the right partner. And there's really no way of knowing exactly what you're going to get because people change over time. And that actually happened with one of my first partners. And that's why I ended up buying out my first partner, is because there's just some things that we weren't seeing eye to eye on. And we decided to go, you know what? Let's just go ahead and take separate paths. And that's what we did. So I was a little hesitant to become a partner in a field that I don't think I marketed a pest control company and didn't realize how hard it was going to be. I had
Mm.
done other home service companies, so it wasn't too foreign to me, and went into business with somebody that ran a very large pest control organization internationally and nationally, and was a nice mentor. And we started off. And so all I had to do was cut a check and take care of the marketing.
Mm.
And so that's what I've been doing. And what was nice with that is I learned the pest control industry, at least in this area, but learned a lot from people that have done it for decades and
Mm.
were very successful at it. Along that way, one of the folks that is now running our pest control company was an executive vice president that ran 65 branches for Truly Nolan.
Wow.
And man, what a wealth of knowledge and information. In
Hmm.
fact, he's going to be one of those coaches on a mastermind that I'm starting up here in November.
Mm.
And that's going to be fun too, where we bring in some of the top, pest control owners in the country and form this mastermind, a new peer group, bring in people like yourself and other speakers that can engage in marketing arenas, uh, players that I've met at Seven Figure Agency, people
Mm,
I've met at now the Height Group. I'm not sure if you're familiar with JC and Karen over at the Height agency, but take those guys are phenomenal. Just, people we meet along the way that could bring value to the peer groups that we're in.
definitely. Yeah, that's so crazy. So you I'm just thinking about how you got that pest control company opportunity is just because you knew somebody, right? So
Yeah.
I mean that's just what I'm starting to realize is that you just need to make as many of those high level connections as possible, and just something's bound to happen. The same, I mean, that's one of the many reasons I like doing the podcast is, I can connect with people like you, and maybe something comes up, maybe there's a huge opportunity to do SEO for this company, or work with this person. You never really know, but I totally believe in just putting out as much goodwill and energy as possible. You've got to put yourself out there, right? So how did you make these connections initially and put yourself out there?
So I was meeting with a friend of mine that had a steel metal building company, and I was basically trying to pitch him on digital marketing.
Mm,
And he's like, you know what, I'm pretty set. I'm good to go. Most of my contracts I get are RFP stuff. I'm like, cool. He goes, but I'm in a group that you have to qualify to be in. And he pitched me on that group. And that's that $500 million plus group that is a
mm,
local business owners group that I went into. And I really quickly became the MVP doing exactly what you're talking about.
mm.
Connect with people, help them. I think I ended up having more clients out of that group than anybody else in the group.
Wow. That's
And
crazy.
I'll tell you, the first one, man, was a real butt kicker. I mean, he was one of the hardest guys to win over
Mm,
because he was a war hero and
mm.
owned a manufacturing company that he had purchased. And man, and he graduated from, gosh, what's that military? Uh, I want to say West Point. Yeah, he graduated from West Point. So this is probably the guy that, I won't say any names. He irons his underwear. He
Yeah.
got shot in the leg in a Huey
Jeez.
as a with a 50 caliber bullet. Maybe it was an AK-47. He got shot. I mean, this guy was like a war hero, and he just doesn't. He can be funny, but he's like one of those guys, business. And so I had to win him over. And being that I helped him out during COVID, where his business completely shifted because a majority of his business was restaurant business.
Mm,
And so he became very dependent on his website, and that's when we helped him the most, and he never forgot it. So that was kind of
okay.
one of those wins where, he did. I remember the first time he made $1 million on his e-com site. He was so thankful, and it helped him sustain during this COVID arena. Now it has flipped because people are going to restaurants again. So
Mm,
he's supplying like Fox restaurants and some of these big chains you've heard about, like PF Chang's, that kind of stuff.
okay.
So, that was a win over. And I think because I was open to talking to a friend, didn't get upset that I didn't win his business. And by the way, I ended up winning three of his businesses.
Wow.
And so he's a long term friend. He lives like 200 yards from my house.
Jeez.
And he's been extremely successful. He owns a crane company. And he's
Mm,
just kind of one of those guys that, hey, man, he's done a lot for me just by that one connection. So what you're doing in this podcast stuff, you're getting those connections
definitely.
for
So
sure.
for someone high level like that, I want to, kind of get into the nitty gritty. How do you win over someone like that? Because you've made all these connections, all these business opportunities. Are you providing them value, giving them a compliment, taking them out to dinner? What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm being myself, and I think that that's where a lot of people when they're selling is they're thinking about self.
Mm,
And if you just flip that script about how can I help you,
mm,
it comes, man. It will come to you. And it's like before I got on this podcast, I was talking to this large pest control company, and I did the research.
uh-huh.
Just like on the front of the proposal is an article that was written in PCT about that company. I had to go
Mm,
digging for it. It's on the front of my proposal. It's like, look, I did my homework, and here's the notes from our meeting. And by the way, this proposal is adjusted to what you said you needed to accomplish,
mm,
not a boxed, here you go. That's the way that they can realize that you're not out to line your pockets. You're there to help them get to where they want to go.
mm.
And I think that unfortunately, in larger entities, the sales force becomes that, where they stop caring and they're just thinking about their commission, or they're just thinking about their next sale. They're not in tune with, hey, how can I really make an impact? Like that story I just told you about that manufacturer here locally,
That is
and
so
that's
good.
yeah. And those, I see your content, and that's why I'm drawn to you. I think your content is just what I just mentioned there.
Mm,
Now it'll be up to you to go, okay, what opportunities am I going to take? And before this podcast is over, I'm going to give you a couple ideas.
mm.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love to. I'm sure you have a ton of wisdom in the space, as I've already heard. Um, yeah, no, making those connections, absolutely huge. And also, what I kind of wanted to touch on to segue off of that in terms of, giving, not caring about yourself, just, putting others first is being a Christian. So, I mean, me and you are both followers of Christ. And I'd like to talk about that with you more because you are, super into the Bible. You're always like sending me Bible verses and, kind of coaching me through it. And I absolutely love it. I love how committed you are to Christ. So can you tell me more about kind of your experience as a Christian? Have you always been Christian? And, where are you at right now?
Yeah, I've always been a Christian, but I think the biggest thing is um, trying to get out of stereotyping other Christians, other
Mm,
religions, other thought processes, because that's what generates those lines in the sand where you can't have true interaction, right? So I'm
mm,
going to quote a framework that has nothing to do with religion. It's called positive intelligence. I'm quoting that first because the rule is once you get hijacked, you can no longer remain curious.
mm,
It cuts down your ability to learn. So, for example, one of the posts that you did, I made a comment and I hijacked somebody who was a different mindset. I did not mean to do that, and probably wasn't the vehicle for me to spin on your comment. I was, after that, I was like, yeah, I hijacked this guy. And once you hijack somebody, they're not in a curious mode anymore. They're
mm,
not capable of learning, or it's very difficult. So, and I've been there myself, right? We get emotionally tied with stuff,
uh-huh.
and when you're hijacked, right?
Hmm.
Emotionally speaking. So I'm going to start that off by saying when you're sharing scripture or thoughts or beliefs, make sure that person's not hijacked.
Hmm.
And one of the easiest statements I learned it from my coach, was this one: "Help me understand. I'm curious."
That's good. Yeah.
I'll say that again: "Help me understand. I'm curious." And you cannot, you know, rifle out your beliefs until you understand where they're coming from.
Mm,
And then, it's kind of like that thought of seek to understand first and then to be understood.
uh-huh.
And so sometimes I'll throw out there, hey, just as a joke, I said, I'm Bible AI now, right? Because I've been studying the Bible my entire life. Now, does that mean I'm not capable of interpreting it correctly? We use the word interpretation. I would just say understand. Yeah, I've seen scripture misunderstood. I've seen people deliver scripture beatings.
Mm,
But the thought is, it's real simple. I think that sometimes people make it complicated. I think, if we're talking about the devil being a real entity, he's very good at misleading,
mm,
causing division, uh, being a really good liar, right? He told the first
yeah.
lie. Um, he's good at it. He's had thousands of years to do that when he became who he was. And I think that, without the Bible, without truth, how can you stand up against that?
Mm,
You know, it's more than just belief in Christ, is what I'm trying to say. Now, that's a big part of our belief system, but understanding and reasoning that there's an accountability channel to it. And I think that,
definitely.
yeah, we don't need the Bible just to say be a loving individual, do we?
No.
How are you loving? What do you exercise? What do you do? And I think part of that journey is, after you read the Bible cover to cover, why are all these mistakes of righteous men in the Bible?
Mm,
And we'll just throw a couple out there. Why did Moses not go to the promised land? Why did David not build the temple? Why were Jesus' closest apostles fighting over, you know, not being humble individuals? Why were those things recorded? There's other verses in the Bible that talk about prophets and people that would say, hey, God, why are you doing this? You
Mhm.
shouldn't be doing this, God. I mean, like that kind of stuff. That was recorded to say, hey, we're human, and I think that the thought is, hey, we're not perfect, so God doesn't expect perfection from us.
Mhm.
Going back to positive intelligence, whether you're a believer or not, the worst thing that we do to ourselves is we judge ourselves.
Mhm.
And then we judge others worse
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Usually you judge yourself worse. And the most miserable people are judging themselves internally. They're probably mistreated. And I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that, but the thought is take a look at how you talk to yourself on the inside.
Mm.
Start writing yourself a permission slip when you're beating the tar out of yourself, because the thought is we can always do better.
Mhm.
When you're looking at the SEO, it can always be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I look at anything, it can always be better. But if you're staying in that state of negativity, or if you're staying in that state of critical, like being very critical of others, you've crossed over. Uh, it says in the Bible that God's a happy God. He wants us to be happy. He's given us opportunities. He gives us
Mhm.
free will. But there are standards as well, and I think that that's where a lot of people deviate from and don't like it, because there's standards with this. I have to do this, this, and this. And I think the easiest breakdown is the two rules, right? Love God, with your whole being, and then love your neighbor as yourself. I mean, if we did that, would we see the problems that we have today? The answer is no. And it's that simple. I usually take people to a scripture in Ecclesiastes. It says, after everything is said and done, what does it all mean?
Mhm.
It basically says, fear the true God and obey his commandments. End of
Mm.
story.
Yeah.
Now, fear, that could seem like a bad thing, but there's a lot of different thoughts. Respect would probably be an even better,
Mhm.
where like you respect, and then if you respect it, you're going to be obedient to it. For example, simple point is, I have a fear and respect of gravity.
Mhm.
And if I
Yeah.
decide that I'm going to jump off my roof, I'm going to break a leg.
Uh-huh.
If I decide that I'm not going to be loving, or I'm going to do things that uh, are traits of the devil, then I'm going to have those results too.
Mhm.
And, I think those are kind of nutshell, without getting too crazy. And I think a lot of people get really sunk on heavy details of prophecy or pieces like that. It's like, look, man, prophecy is best understood after it's fulfilled. Now, I'm not saying
Mhm.
don't think about what's coming. We think that, yeah, there's some wonderful things ahead and they're laid out here. Sometimes it's just those little details. Well, what's going to happen? How's this going to happen? Get stuck in that what if loop, the
Mhm.
negativity loop, the unhappy, stay out of that. I just like to tell people, in the end, God wins.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all that matters, right?
In the end, God wins. And oh, by the way, there's no one that can really check his hand or tell him what's up.
Mm.
And I really like just reminding people of that. That's not like a Hollywood movie where the bad guy has a chance. The bad guy doesn't
Mm.
have a chance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are high level things. And then by remaining curious, if I was going to say, hey, Danny, I want to learn more about what you believe in this aspect.
Mm.
We could break that down, and where I'd go with that is, hey, what scriptures support that? So we have a foundation,
Mhm.
right? And then we can have agreement or disagreement. And I'm okay with that if we disagree. I
Definitely.
think in the end, we're all going to know what exact truth is, which will be nice.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that was a great explanation. Thank you for that. Yeah, first off, because there's a lot of points to touch on there. I love the analogy to gravity, because a lot of people see fear God and they're like immediately against it. Like, fear God? Like, what? I'm so important myself. But it is more of like a respect and love. Anything that you fear, you naturally love. So that's a great analogy there of just like you respect gravity. You're not going to jump off the building because you fear what's going to happen if you do something like that. So I love that analogy as well. And also, what I wanted to touch on was kind of the evil component. I think that the devil and demons, And seeing what's going on in modern day society, that was a big reason why I came to Christ. And initially just, started believing in God because I was, atheist, then agnostic, then believed in God, and then became Christian. So there's like this kind of whole cycle there. And one of the biggest things that converted me was seeing, one of my friends sent me several videos. He's like a diehard Catholic, and he was doing whatever he could to convert me, at least become Christian. And also just noticing everything that's going on. And I think you almost have to be blind to not see how backwards things are nowadays in society. I'm not even going to go into specifics, but I think people know that everything kind of feels backwards, and that's because we've lost God in our society, I feel like.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's a wake up, right? You've taken this experience in your life, and you are where you are because of those experiences. And many people see that there's something different in the world today, whether they're religious or not.
Mm-hmm.
I love taking people to the UN website, and I like to read the charter. Read the charter. You'll see that they're trying to achieve what God has promised.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because everybody wants peace and security. We hear it all the time. Every president has said it. Why aren't we able to achieve it if everybody wants it? Why is that? And we all know that if you're somebody that has read the Bible, that there's an influence behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Jesus did is recorded in Revelation chapter 21, I believe. Actually, I'll give you the exact verse, but basically what it says is Satan got thrown out of the heavens. Him and all of his compadres down to the earth is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is in that verse, it says the original serpent, referring to the Garden of Eden, the one called devil, the one called Satan. Like, there's no interpretation there. We know who we're talking about here. And it says that he's here on the earth. Now, that for me is not really up for debate. We see the what has happened. Like if I said, Danny, in the last 100 years, have we ever been able to blow this earth up many times over? What would you say?
We nuked twice, and we could do that much more exponentially now.
Yes, and I love taking people to. If I said, let's have a conversation just about military might right now. We're talking about Space Force. We're talking about hypersonic missiles. We're talking about technology that's being used that's outlawed with AI. It's like Terminator action going on. And you look at what's happening in, these different countries. And I'm just talking about military might. I'm not talking about anything other than what technology do we have right now?
Mm-hmm.
UN peacekeepers, they love to, they go and travel and say, hey, here's where we're at. Another big organization besides the UN website. I know that we had, what was that big one about the atomic bomb there with Oppenheimer? Is it Oppenheimer or something like that? What's his name?
The movie, or what do you mean?
Yes. Yeah. Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
Where, crazy details on what happened then, but if you look at the Doomsday Clock is what it's called. Are you familiar with that one?
Is that a movie?
No, it's actually a website. What happened is all these scientists came together, and they have a figurative clock they set every year. It's called the Doomsday Clock. And there's a nice documentary on Netflix you can look up. Now I can send that to you as well. But the thought is when you look at where the destructive capability is, they set the clock towards midnight, and they say once you get to the top, we're done. And so that scientific group, which is global, it's the closest it's ever been. I'm not sure if you know that or if you've ever heard of that before. So
No.
That's the kind of stuff that gets played down where that's how dangerous it is. And that's one that I subscribe to. And every year they reset that clock, but it's gotten closer every year. I think it's 90 seconds before midnight now, where in the Cold War, I want to say it was like 2 minutes, something like that. That lets you know how times are today. And it has nothing to do with religious beliefs. Nothing. This is scientists coming together going, man, things aren't looking so good.
Yeah.
So for, I would say non-believers or ones that are looking, look at the facts with where humanity is. Funnel out everything else. It's just like, look, let's just have a normal conversation of where technology is, where it's never been. In the last 100 years, I mean, we were plowing fields and stuff, right? It wasn't until the early 1900s we had planes.
Yeah.
Now we got Space Force. We're talking about going to Mars. Love all that space stuff. And then we have the military technology. Who knows what we really have, right? It's classified. It's classified. So, but the stuff that we do know, it's pretty crazy what we have right now. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, some of the things that were prophesied back in the day, 2000 plus years ago, were things that you'd never think are possible. So, I mean, I forget the exact verse, but something along the lines of like everyone in the world will know Jesus or like at least know his name. And back in the day, I mean, there's no way of mass communication. There weren't even planes. You'd only travel maybe a few miles to, I don't know, go to the next city or civilization. But that prophecy has basically come true. I think it's 99.99% of people know of Jesus. It's just some like select tribes maybe like living in jungles that haven't heard of him. But because of social media and because of airplanes and basically whatever's been going on recently, just about everyone knows of him. But back in the day, that would have, everyone was like, what? Not everyone's gonna know about him. Like, what? We're gonna, I don't know, swim across the ocean and like somehow tell everyone over there, and like we don't even know everyone in the world. Like we don't know how big the world is. So I mean that's one of the big ones for me. But relating to the end times, I mean I don't want to go too deep into this because it's more of a business podcast. But I'll kind of leave you and the audience with this kind of this good resource that I really like, and I don't know. You'll have to watch for yourself, but it's this YouTube channel called Blow the Shofar on YouTube, and I've been following him for I don't know 3-4 months now. I actually got in touch with him in Jerusalem. Me and my mentor were like running ads for him because he's like this ex crypto millionaire and is basically spending all of his money to advertise and get the word out that the world is going to end. And what's crazy, I can't believe it's coming up because I heard about it, a few months ago. But he predicts that the world is basically going to end October, or not end, I'm sorry, but like the 7 years of tribulation is going to start October 8th this year. And there's a ton of scriptural evidence to support it. Some of it is a little far-fetched and, whatever. He also ties it to the stars and that the stars, and the moon and the sun align in a specific way on that date. But it's definitely something to check out. I think it's very interesting. And, me, my mentor, and some other people think it's, 30-40% chance.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just share a thought, just a biblical answer, not Wyatt's opinion, is we know that there's a verse that says no one knows the day or the hour. Yeah. It says not even Jesus. It says the Father knows. So it's kind of an interesting thought that when we start predicting when stuff's going to happen. Now, when Jesus was talking to his apostles, he did say, these are the things that would be happening. And we're seeing that, right? Yeah. There's no contest. I mean, the typical answer you'll get is, hey, things have always been that way. I'm like, really? Have we had 8 billion people on the planet? When I was born, Danny, on the planet, there was about 3 billion.
Jeez.
So in my lifetime, just the mathematics for science minds here, the population has doubled in my lifetime. So the sheer scale is nowhere near what it was 100 years ago. We certainly didn't have atomic weapons, and we certainly didn't have the ability to blow the earth up or, destroy the environment, which is happening, and that's no contest as well. So I'll leave it there. I'm glad that you're on this journey, man, because it's encouraging to know that you keep searching and are looking for answers, and they're there. They're not hard answers. You don't have to. You think about who Jesus actually talked to when he was on the earth. It was the simple people. He wasn't trying to, he condemned the Pharisees and the Sadducees, right? The people that supposedly had the knowledge, and he talked to normal people like you and me. So good thoughts.
Definitely. Yeah, no, he does address that point as well. That's like the main kind of pushback on his argument. I mean, I won't even get into it, but yeah, anyone who wants to learn more about that can check that out as well. Super interesting at the very least, especially if you're Christian. But anyways, I want to take like a big pivot here, and at least for like the last 10 minutes or so, get into business. So, tell me what is like the biggest thing that pest control company owners are lacking on, they're not doing, that they should be doing?
Okay, one of the pre-qualifiers that I have, if I'm going to work with a PCO, pest control operator, pest control company, is they got to be growth mindset, right? They got to have a growth mindset. You will run into pest control operators that are one truck operations, and they're fine with that, and they're content with that. That's fine. But the only reason why they've probably stayed there is they didn't have a growth mindset. They didn't want to grow. That's fine. Not everybody wants to grow a business. So that's one thing I look for. Do they want to grow? The second thing I look at, and it's probably what you do too, is you look at their reputation.
Yeah.
If somebody's a 2-star and they got over 100 reviews,
No
red
way.
flag. Red flag.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you a true story. This is a company doing about $2 million when I walked in. And at the beginning of the reputation game, when Google actually started adding stars, remember that? When they came in and started adding those stars? They were in a 2.2. And I remember sitting down with the owner, home services arena. I said, look, this is going to destroy your business. Do you want to grow this thing or you want to get destroyed? Because you got to turn this around. What this is telling me is you don't care about your reputation. First thing you got to solve is the reputation. And if their reputation is garbage, they're going to have to change it as an organization. I'm not even spending my time trying to teach people about turning that around anymore because we're in a different era.
Yeah.
When somebody searches, Danny, your business, they're going to see 5 stars. You're a 5-star guy. I call it a 5-star culture.
Yeah.
I want to work now. Granted, when you're a big pest control operator, I'm talking about 10 million plus, you're probably not going to be a 5-star anymore. That's almost impossible to retain.
Yeah.
The bigger you grow, the harder it is to continue to keep a 5-star, stuff. But when you're that sub level, you can do it. So reputation is everything. We know that it's tied in. Google knows it. It's tied into how you're being served up in proximity search that you talk about. It's giving those signals, right? They're real reviews coming back. So reputation is number one, what I look at, helping first. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And, I will give all the advice in the world to people that don't have a good reputation, but I just can't take them on. It's like, there's only so much SEO I can do. And, you might have seen my post a few days ago of, I didn't want to take on a client because they, I couldn't get them results because they had such a small area and they were only doing wildlife at the time. So if I know I can't get you results, the same way as if you have a terrible reputation, there's only so much SEO you can do and, advertising or whatever, but people are going to see that and they're going to be turned off. So, I mean, I completely agree. I think reputation isn't even like something to strive for. I think that's a standard. Really, just about every single pest control company I see is, at least 4.5 plus, at least, most of them. So if you're below 4 stars, you seriously need to get on your game.
That's right. 100%. I saw it in a post from Gary Vaynerchuk. He said it well. He said, you can't outmarket a bad service.
Yeah, exactly.
You can spend a lot of money, but you're not going to outmarket that bad reputation. So, I'll look at Better Business Bureau. The most respected and trusted review still comes from them. And if they're like a C or a D, I'm like, hey, man, we got to fix this first. So you need to go down there, meet with those guys, work out whatever issue. I don't care if it was 3 years ago. You need to go make that right.
Definitely.
So Better Business Bureau is a big one. And we know that, all the major players in that space, that it's not just Google. There's other places that are serving up reviews that those have to get fixed. You know, the funnest one, I'm not sure if you found this, Danny, to be true, but Yelp, if you got a crap score there, that's fun to turn around because of how that algorithm works. Once you get on that poor list, man, I've ran campaigns with not pest control folks specifically, but other ones that once they had a bad reputation on Yelp, it's very hard for them to become accepted. They might be able to get a bunch of reviews that are good, but they get pushed down
Mm.
or hidden. You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know that's why you have to get it right from the beginning. I mean, I think again, kind of what we were talking about is that you have to be in that giving mentality. You have to do whatever it takes to make your customers happy. And, even though you think it's kind of just a standard service like pest control, you still have to go above and beyond for your customers. So I 100% agree. It applies to every single business. And I think that's how you make it. But another question I want to ask you is I forget exactly how many pest control clients you have, but maybe, 30, 40, 50. What have you seen is the number one customer acquisition channel? So what is working best for pest control right now? Is it local service ads, Google Business Profile, a mix of everything?
When we were talking about this, I'm in the same mindset that you are. Local service ads, absolute must, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have like a Danny or a Wyatt or somebody in that space helping you on your SEO, local service ads is low-hanging fruit. Now, that ties right in with your reviews. If your reviews aren't good,
exactly,
and you're competing with, like right here in Tucson, we had 400 pest control companies we were competing with. You think you're going to get any play on LSA when you're coming out of the gate? No. So that may not be a channel you can take advantage of right away. Mm-hmm. So that's where we come in and go, okay, what can we do? That's that Google Business Profile play, where that's what I did with the first pest control company that I got involved with, that I was a partial owner in, is all we're going to do is it's going to be a race to 100 reviews. So if you're a new pest control company or you're sub 100 reviews, I would say that to anybody, get to that 100 reviews as quick as possible.
I agree. Yeah, and I've talked to some of the experts in the space, and several people have told me, like, again, people have been in it for like 20 years, this is all they're doing, that you get a boost at 10 reviews and you get a boost at 100 reviews. So do whatever you can. I mean, especially if you're at like 3 reviews, get to that 10 review mark. And then once you're, 10, 30, 40, 50, get to that 100 reviewer mark. It's not even so much for SEO. I think it's more so the psychological component. Like when you just see 100 stars versus like 70 or 80, it might not seem like much more, but it's a lot more psychologically. We
can do it. Yeah, we do it, right? We go on Amazon, you're going to buy something. Yeah. What are you going to do if you've never heard of somebody? And that's the mentality. If they don't know you, they're going to use that review as the hearsay we love to hear, right? Oh, it's a hearsay. That's what reviews are for this generation, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what other channels are important? Like, what are you guys doing for clients? Facebook ads, Google ads, Yelp ads?
Yeah, I think that Facebook's its own animal, and I do know some people in seven-figure agency that are really, really good at Facebook ads, but that's a channel which is volatile. And as you've probably seen, it goes up, it goes down.
Yeah.
Facebook loves to keep it that way. Don't feel like you're going to get a lot of throughput on a home service company where I don't follow my pest control company on Facebook. So, the ads might be a brand awareness thing, and so that you get that brand memory, but don't expect huge returns on some of those, what I would call blast channels. Yes, Facebook has it really dialed in on your demographic where you're doing it, but still blast. It's not like search where somebody's looking and getting served up ads. So keep that in mind, to don't expect miracles in the Facebook ads arena. And I see that there's a lot of players that love to go in there and say they can give you 10x, 15x. That wouldn't be a first go-to channel for me.
Okay. And then
I'm not sure how you go. I'm sorry. How do you feel about that? Is that one channel you love to push people
I'm
to,
not a fan of Facebook ads. Me and like some other guys that I've talked to pretty much agree that the leads are very poor quality, and like what we're looking for in pest control is someone that actually needs the service. So like someone might fill out the form on Facebook and then they end up, not being interested. They're like, oh, well, I was just kind of thinking about a pest control company. I guess the offer seemed kind of good. Whereas if someone's searching pest control near me or pest control Tucson or whatever it is, they clearly want pest control and they're going to choose a company. So which one is it going to be? So I personally love all Google platforms. So Google ads, local service ads, website, Google Business Profile. I love keeping it on Google. That's my preferred method, and that's what I'm staying on. But I think to a certain extent, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think, you can only go so far with that, maybe 5 to 10 million a year. And then you have to start doing other kinds of marketing like going really hard on social media marketing, going hard on Facebook ads, offline marketing, which is also what I wanted to talk to you about is I'm not sure what you guys are doing with your pest control companies, but how do you feel about offline marketing?
Yeah, I think offline marketing is a good option. And I think that there's a lot of other channels than just digital, right? And
Yeah.
getting those things right first matter. I can't remember if I was talking to you about one of my calls that I made last week. The pest control owner was like, "Hey, we pulled all of our decals off our trucks."
Yeah.
I'm like, "What?" Like if somebody was just going into business, that's the first thing you do is you wrap your
Yeah.
vehicle
Hmm.
and make sure you find the best wrap. Don't go with now if all you can afford is magnets, go magnets, but go big on your wrap.
Yeah.
Because that's what people see. You're driving around. It's a billboard.
Hmm.
It's part of that top of mind awareness, especially if it looks good. If somebody sees a well-designed wrap and they see all the buying signals, they might even call you right there while you're driving around. It happens,
Hmm. Yeah.
so that's an easy offline channel. There's a lot of other offline channels that work really well in pest control. I'll throw this one out there. Being visible in the community, right? We talk about community,
Hmm.
doing some frisbees. Go, people are at the park. Give away some frisbees. Give away
That's
some
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
give away some fly swatters. Start going out, get 1,000 pins, and give your pins away to every business.
Mm.
You know, because they look at that pin, they see your logo. That's an easy one.
Uh-huh.
These are things that are tried and true. Again, from my peers and mentors, easy, easy
Mm.
stuff, not expensive. For those sub-$1 million business owners, and then you go up from there. One cool suggestion I got from a mentor that does Super Bowl commercials. He said, "Look, you go out there, you do the service. If it's a new customer, ask them if they can put a sign in the yard on their account for the first month, and then
Mm.
it comes down. Then
Mm.
everybody in the neighborhood knows that, oh, they're getting serviced by X pest control company." There's a very easy offline. You give your customer an incentive, and it's not going to be there indefinitely, but you at
Mm.
least get a little play from people driving by and seeing that they're using you.
Mm. That's so good. Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is just brand exposure. And like
Yeah.
I'm sure you kind of almost know like the law of psychology that the more you see something, the more you like it, which is again one of the reasons I like doing the podcast. People are seeing me now in the clips and now I'm like posting it on social media. If you keep seeing me, you're naturally gonna like me more, unless, obviously it's like a terrible post or a terrible podcast or whatever. But usually the more you see something, the more you like it. So I actually didn't even think about that from just the broadest perspective possible is what can we do any way, shape, or form to get our brand in front of other people? So that I think that's awesome. Frisbees, pens, like sign in their yard. I think that's actually genius. So that's really good advice. That's a
Well,
good nugget there.
I wouldn't tell you to do that if I didn't see it work for others in the home services. And it doesn't have to apply to pest control. That could apply to others. A lot of people spend a lot of money on tchotchkes or just gimmicky stuff that if you're not going to use a pen, you're going to use a pen.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you're going to use a fly swatter. You're going to
Hmm.
use if you're at a dog park, you'll probably use a frisbee. Those
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
things are low hanging fruit. And it's just kind of showing goodwill in the community. Simple stuff, but the
Awesome.
wrap on the vehicle, we're going to go through a lot of that in our mastermind groups as offline channels that carry big impact. Getting
Cool.
involved in a peer group is so important.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we're at the hour mark. I'll ask you one more question, then we'll wrap it up. So I'm
Sure.
I'm just super interested in this one mastermind group that you've been talking about. Is this like $500 million mastermind? All these guys are super successful. What has been like one of the biggest lessons that you've learned from that group?
Well, I think with the current group that I'm in, is just being open to coaching, getting coached
Mm.
yourself. And also, when they take interest in what you're doing right, be open to share.
Hmm.
Right now, I'm getting ready to go to Texas next month to speak on something called process triage.
Mm.
I brought something to the group. There's always something that you can bring and something you can take away. So just be open to, take the good, bad, and roll with it. And you take something and make it work in your own organization for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Wyatt. This was a super valuable podcast as always. Where can people find you on social media and learn more about you and all that?
LinkedIn's a really good place. I look at that the most. So just Wyatt Chambers on LinkedIn. Swarm Pest Control Marketing. If you're a pest control company, you can look at that. Those are the primary places you can find me.
Cool. And are you on Facebook or Twitter? Just because I usually. Okay, yeah, you're on Facebook. What about Twitter?
Yeah, I don't monitor my Twitter feed. I haven't worked with that in a while, but it is a
Okay.
good vehicle for some, for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you so much, Wyatt. That was really a fantastic podcast, and yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Hey, thanks, Danny.
Yeah, of course. See you,
All right.
Wyatt. Thanks.
All right.